What am I? My 6-year-old daughter comes to me in the playground, puzzled by a question another kid just asked her. What are you? I look at my beautiful daughter, her long, dark brown hair, her big brown eyes, like her Indian father, and her confident, direct demeanor, like me, her American mother. And I feel a pang of worry. I want to protect her from being othered, even at this young age. That kid in the playground looked at my daughter, asked this question, and she tried to categorize her based on what she could see. When she asked, "What are you?" she meant, are you like me or are you different? She's training her instincts. And we all do this every time we meet someone. You may not realize it, but your instincts are like an algorithm that's always running in the background, guiding your decisions, and it gets trained every single day, whether you realize it or not. Daniel Kahneman, in his famous book, Thinking Fast and Slow, explains how we use mental shortcuts to process the world and make complex decisions fast. Those mental shortcuts are based on our past experiences and stereotypes. Useful, but it's incomplete, and it makes us overlook things. I think we fail if we don't train our mental algorithms intentionally. We fail when the only question we ask is, "What are you?" and we stop at the first answer. Because the real question isn't, "What are you?" It's, "Who are you?" And making that shift takes us from othering to understanding. And understanding is what unlocks opportunities. I think about othering every day. It's the lens I look at the whole world through with, at home and at work. At home, I'm an American woman living in London, raising biracial children. I am keenly aware of where we feel like we belong. At work, I'm a qualitative researcher. I talk to customers and employees for organizations around the world every day to understand what makes them tick. I collect data. I pull out insights, and I turn those insights into the products and the systems that we use in our lives every single day. And the first thing I was taught to do as a researcher is to segment audiences, to put people in neat, tidy little boxes so that I can understand them faster. Problem with segmentation is it is an incomplete way of understanding people. It focuses on what's distinct and different about us, not what we share. And when we're always focused on how we're different, that's when othering happens. That's when people get overlooked. And that makes it really hard to build things together. So I have to be curious. I have to ask different questions, better questions, when I want to really understand people. A famous American wise man who also lived in London, Ted Lasso, said, "Be curious, not judgmental." Because if they were curious, they would have asked questions. So I have to challenge myself and my children and everyone that I work with to notice the box, but leave the lid off. So the next time you want to put someone in a box and categorize them, because you will, first notice how you feel. This also applies if you notice someone wanting to put you in a box. Notice how you feel. That moment in the playground when my daughter came to me, I had to resist my automatic urge to react in a few ways. Number one, outrage. How dare she ask you that question? Dismissal. Don't worry, dear. It doesn't matter. We're all the same deep down. Hiding behind data. That would have been very familiar for me. Here's a bunch of population statistics on shifting demographics in the country. I'll see you next week. I could have told her that London is one of the most diverse cities in the world. I could have told her that by 2045, the Brookings Institute estimates that more than half of the American population will be multi-ethnic and multiracial, not white. All of that's true, but this was not the moment for a mom lecture. This was a moment to ask a better question. So I looked at my daughter and I asked, how does that question make you feel? And she said, weird. Because it feels weird when you're othered. And it doesn't matter if it was intentional or not. Just as my daughter got othered in the playground, professionals get othered and overlooked in the workplace inadvertently all the time. One example was Magali. She was an executive at the senior level at a live digital event hosted by the tech company that she worked for. That company asked this question: what do we need to fix at the event to make it better for people? The event was designed for the Silicon Valley tech bro. The features were moving by quickly. The pace was really fast. The chat was even faster. It was all happening in English, and Magali couldn't keep up. So she didn't. She hung back. She stayed silent. She didn't participate. And what that meant is that when that company then went in to look at their engagement statistics afterwards to see how well the event had performed, what worked and what didn't work, how did people participate, she wasn't counted because she didn't show up, because she didn't participate. But when I talked to her one-to-one, how she felt was like it was her fault. She said, maybe my English just isn't good enough for this. Blaming herself was not useful. But equally, outrage at the tech bros for excluding her wouldn't have been useful either. We tried something different. We tried adding a live translation across the event so that Magali and other people like her could participate a little more easily. It was a start. There was a surprising ripple effect across that company because other employees started coming forward and sharing experiences of when they felt left out, and so they decided not to participate. And because of that, the company culture became a little more open and inclusive because people felt safe to speak up and certain that they'd be heard. That company asked a better question. Instead of just asking, what do we need to fix? They asked, how did you feel at that event? And they listened to the answers. That is what inspired change. And the result? After that, engagement at those live events increased 40%, and their revenue from sales boosted 8%. Asking better questions isn't just about one company, though. It applies across industries, even government. The next time you want to categorize someone and put them in a box and emphasize differences, or when you notice someone doing that for you, to you, look for shared needs, look for common ground, and find out what's there. During the pandemic, I was working on a government task force to protect critical supply chains. Everybody here has experienced something having to do with a supply chain failure in the last few years, right? Right. Everything from medicine to food to toilet paper has been in short supply. Leaders couldn't make decisions the old way anymore. Mapping supply chains the old way was manual. It was slow. It was based on hindsight. The new way demanded automation, speed, and foresight. but we hadn't built a decision-making engine yet. That's what we had to do. When I joined the project, this was the question that was at hand. What user needs should we prioritize first to build a prototype? 7 different departments were involved, multiple different job functions. Everyone had a different supply chain problem that they needed to solve. They needed different things, different data sets, different tools, visualization maps. It was a lot. And of all of that, what do we prioritize first and what do we leave for later? But after 150 hours of data collection, talking to people, watching them work, listening to the problems that they were trying to solve, I started asking myself a different question. What are the problems that they all share in common? What needs do they all share? How do we build that? And then, how do we use their differences and their different needs and their different problems to make the system better? Focus on shared needs first, not isolated problems. Making that shift is what helped us streamline all that complexity so we could actually build something. And what we built helped turn a crisis into a long-term strategic advantage. And today, the UK has become a model for supply chain analysis and resilience. Asking better questions also helps on the playground. But that question, that moment, doesn't matter to my daughter anymore. I asked her about it last week because I told her I was going to come and do this talk. And she rolled her eyes. She's 10 now. She's like, seriously, Mom? That again. She says, I'm English, I'm American, I'm Indian. I'm also cheeky and funny and kind. I'm proud of who I am. Shoo, shoo, can we move on? She's young. She is training her fledgling algorithm to process better questions. She's learning to integrate and to focus on the many facets of who she is, not just the few that people can see on the surface. And that's the power of better questions. It helps us see beyond just our surface level differences to understand what we share and our shared needs and common ground so that we can build better things together. And so my question to you is this: what is training your algorithm? We have more access to each other today than we've ever had before. But access doesn't equal understanding. That's what better questions do. So how will you ask better questions the next time you're at a party, or seated across the hiring table, or in a team meeting? When you meet someone tonight, instead of asking them, what do you do? Try asking, what projects are you working on right now that excite you? Instead of asking, where are you from? Try asking, where is a place that feels like home to you and why? That'll give you more insight into what makes someone tick and what matters to them than any job title or location ever would. And that's what we need right now. We need more shared understanding, more common ground, more working together. The next time you want to put someone else in a box, or you notice someone putting you in a box, notice how you feel. Look for shared ground. And do what I did with my 6-year-old daughter. Notice that box and leave the lid off. Thank you.